On her wedding day, Clara believed she had found true love. She thought she was marrying a husband, but what she didn't know was that she had just married a son who could never leave his mother's shadow. At first it looked like love, it looked like happiness, but soon every decision, every fight, every tear was controlled by his mother's hands. And when the truth finally came out, the ending left everyone in shock. Welcome to Folktales by Chisom, where stories come alive, filled with lessons. Today's tale is one of love and marriage. So sit back, listen closely, and let this story remind us that in every choice, there is always a lesson to be learned. The drums were beating, the voices of the women's choir filled the air, and the bright sun shone down on the decorated church compound. From the outside, it looked like the perfect day. Clara stood at the entrance in her flowing white gown, her heart pounding as she prepared to walk down the aisle. Her friends whispered prayers of blessing over her, while her aunt adjusted the veil on her head. Everyone in Enugu seemed to have gathered for this wedding. Chuka was not just any man, he was a respected banker, tall and handsome, known for his calm voice and generous smile. When he smiled at Clara, she felt like the most fortunate woman alive. Her friends used to tease her, saying, "Clara, you didn't catch jackpot, oh. This man is fine, responsible, and loaded." But as she stood there breathing in the scent of roses and perfume, she didn't think of wealth or status. She thought of love. For years, she had prayed for a husband who would love and protect her. Today, it seemed like those prayers had been answered. The church doors swung open. Clara stepped in, holding her father's arm. Guests gasped at her beauty. Chuka stood at the altar in his navy blue suit, his eyes fixed on her as though she were the only woman in the world. For a moment, it felt as if time had paused, but not everyone's gaze was warm. From the front row, an older woman sat, her wrapper tied neatly around her waist, her coral beads shining against her dark skin. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, followed Clara's every step. This was Maman Kemdilam, Chuka's mother. Clara had met her before. At first, Mama had seemed pleasant, smiling politely, asking questions about her family. But behind that smile, Clara sensed something else, a coldness, a hidden authority that no one dared to challenge. As the ceremony began, Clara pushed the thought aside. She focused on the vows, on Chuka's trembling hands as he slipped the ring onto her finger. She focused on the cheers, the singing, the moment they were pronounced husband and wife. At the reception, laughter filled the air. Friends danced in circles around the couple, spraying money on them as the DJ shouted praises. Clara and Chuka danced until sweat glistened on their foreheads, their happiness lighting up the hall. But even in that joy, Clara noticed small details. Each time Chuka tried to pour her a drink, Mama's hand reached out first. When Clara tried to sit with her new husband, Mama called him to sit by her side. Guests laughed, thinking it was just a mother's love, but Clara's heart sank. Later that evening, when they finally retreated to the bridal suite, Clara touched Chuka's cheek and whispered, "We made it, my love. From today, it's just you and me." But his response was hesitant. He kissed her forehead gently, then said, "Yes, you and me. But you know Mama will always be part of us. She sacrificed so much for me, Clara. Everything I am today is because of her." Clara smiled faintly, though inside a small unease began to grow. She brushed it off, convincing herself it was nothing. After all, every man loved his mother. Maybe she was just overthinking. But in the shadows of that bridal night, Clara could not have imagined how deeply Mama's presence would seep into their lives. This was not just a marriage between husband and wife. It was a marriage with a third person. And Clara was yet to discover how dangerous that would become.
The first week after the wedding felt like a warm dream wrapped in soft fabric. Clara woke early to make breakfast in their small but tasteful apartment in Independence Layout, humming low while yam boiled and eggs fried. Chuka would emerge from the bedroom in a crisp shirt, kiss her cheek, and say, "My wife, your food is sweet past anything." He said it lightly, but it melted her. Then the phone would ring. "Good morning, Mama," Chuka would answer, straightening up like a schoolboy. Clara would pause by the cooker each time, listening to the steady, "Yes, Mama, yes, I hear, okay, Mama," that punctuated their mornings. The first 3 days, she found it sweet. By the fourth, she realized he had not eaten without her instruction. Mama needed to know if salt was enough, if Clara had washed the plates, if Chuka had ironed his shirt himself, or if Clara had done it. A good wife does not allow her husband's collar to embarrass him, Mama said through the phone, as if she were standing right there inspecting their lives with a magnifying glass. On Saturday, Clara suggested they visit her parents in New Haven. She had promised to deliver wedding cake and share photos with her mother. Chuka hesitated. "Let me just ask Mama." She laughed, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. He called, and Mama's voice, calm but firm, drifted out of the speaker. "You went to their house before the wedding and after the wedding. Today you will come here. A wife must first greet her husband's people. That is how blessing remains on her head. Tell Clara to come and learn how to cook bitter leaf soup the correct way." Clara swallowed and smiled. "It's fine. We can see my mom tomorrow." Tomorrow became next week. Next week became we will plan it. Eventually, Clara started packing her mother's cake into the freezer, promising herself she wouldn't cry over something so small. 2 weeks after, Mama visited. She did not arrive with a simple knock and a polite smile. She came with 2 cousins, a big bag of dried fish, another bag of crayfish, and a wide authority that filled the house like incense. "Clara, chai, you are thin," she said, scanning her head to toe. "A wife must look healthy. But first, where is the bucket you use for soaking bitter leaf? Not every bitter leaf in an ugu is the same. You soak, you squeeze, you taste, you squeeze again." Clara tried to keep up. She smiled, nodded, and brought out what she thought was needed. Mama took over the kitchen, then the living room, then the bedroom corridor. She tilted frames, rearranged spoons, measured salt with her eyes, opened their wardrobe, and finally settled into the one position Clara never expected: their finances. "Chuka, hand me your payslip." Clara blinked. "Mama?" "My daughter, let me explain to you," Mama began, sitting on their couch as if it were her throne. "This family you have married into, we do things with sense. When Chuka's father died, who paid school fees? Me. When this boy could not afford transport to Enugu campus, who sold wrappers? Me. Today you both must be wise. We will decide budget together." Clara looked at Chuka, waiting for him to say, "Mama, no." He didn't. He laughed shyly, rubbed his neck, and fetched his phone banking app. "It's just for guidance," he whispered.
Mama calculated with the speed of a market matron. Rent, paid. Feeding, 40,000. Tithe, 10% of course. Plot for Mama, small. And the rest? Every first Monday, you will transfer to this account for family support. She pushed a folded note at him with an account number scrawled in blue ink. Clara felt heat climbing her chest. "Mama, with respect, shouldn't we decide that? I mean, our savings plan, our goals." Mama smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "Howard, daughter, I am teaching you how to build a house that will not collapse. Do you want your husband to become like these boys who forget their mothers after marriage? God forbid. It is your duty to help him remember." The cousins chuckled softly. Chuka squeezed Clara's hand and murmured, "It's okay." That night, Clara lay awake staring at the ceiling fan. She tried to unravel which part hurt more, the intrusion or Chuka's silence. She used to imagine marriage as 2 hands cupped against the wind. Now it felt like her hands were open, and the wind was stealing everything from her palm. The next day slid into a strange routine. Mama called at lunch to ask what Clara had served. If it was spaghetti, she sighed. If it was rice, She asked if the stew had body. If Clara sounded tired, Mama said, marriage is for women with strong wrist and stronger mind. One Sunday, the Church Women's Fellowship invited newlyweds to share testimonies. Clara wore a soft blue dress, hoping to feel beautiful and blessed. Mama sat in the front row with her coral beads clicking. When Clara stood to speak, Mama stood too. We thank God, Mama began, her voice steady into the microphone the usher hurriedly provided. Our son Chuka is a good boy, and our daughter Clara, she is learning. I am training her. I will not allow her to spoil my son with these modern ways that scatter marriages. There was uncomfortable laughter. Someone clapped. Clara's face burned, but she smiled and said, Amen, because what else could she say in church? That evening, she asked Chuka gently, My love, when you heard Mama say she is training me, how did you feel? He sat on the bed, frowned at his cufflinks, and said, It didn't sound bad. She didn't insult you, didn't she? He shrugged, distracted by a message on his phone. You know Mama, she talks. Don't take it to heart. Clara stood at the window, watching a kick and apep rattle down the street. She pressed her palm against the glass. She had never felt so outside her own life. Things sharpened the week Chuka's promotion letter arrived. He raced home, lifted her, and spun her in the tiny living room. Assistant branch manager, he shouted, laughing. They danced, breathless and silly, and for a moment the apartment felt like a safe place again. She cooked jollof with fried plantain, and they ate cross-legged, teasing each other about who got more chicken. Then the phone rang. Chuka, my son, God has done it. You see why it's good to listen to your mother. Promotion comes when you honor your source. On Saturday, you will come to the village. We will throw Thanksgiving, bring envelope, greet your uncles. Clara waited for him to say, Mama, we will come next month. Instead, he said, Yes, Mama, and began listing the items they should buy for the trip. Goat, drinks, cola nut. He ended the call beaming. Babe, this is big. Mama will be so happy. And me? Will I be happy if every good thing you have belongs first to Mama? He sat, surprise in his eyes. Why are you saying it like that? You and Mama are not enemies. I know, but sometimes it feels like there is no space for me. He reached for her hand. There is space. Just understand her. He smiled, but it was a tired smile that said, This conversation is over. The Thanksgiving at the village was a theater of gratitude and quiet humiliation. Drummers beat ogene, while women ululated. Mama paraded Chuka like a trophy. When Clara joined him to greet the elders, Mama tugged her backward. Stand there, she hissed, smiling for the crowd. When elders are speaking to men, wives stand small. That night, in the guest room with the thin foam mattress and the smell of camphor, Clara stared at the cracked ceiling and heard the distant laughter of relatives in the courtyard. She remembered her mother's words at the kitchen table 1 week before the wedding. Marriage is not two people against the world. It is two people with the world. But those two must protect their small corner. Clara realized their small corner didn't exist yet. Not with Mama standing in the doorway. When they returned to Enugu, Clara tried a different path. Kindness that was firm. She called Mama herself. Mummy, I want to learn your bitter leaf soup from start to finish. Please come on Wednesday. I will buy everything. Mama arrived with a list that looked like a market ledger. They cooked together. They laughed once, genuinely, when the pepper made both of them sneeze at the same time. For a flicker, Clara felt a bridge forming. Then, a message popped on Chuka's phone. He was in the bedroom bathing. The screen lit the kitchen counter. Mama glanced, then reached, swift, unthinking, opened it, and read it. Ah, she said, almost delighted. This your husband's pasta knows what he is saying. He has added one thing to your monthly pledge. Chai, God will bless him. Clara's chest tightened. Mama, that is Chuka's private message. Private? She raised her brows. Between a mother and her son, there is nothing private. Clara inhaled. slowly. Between a husband and a wife, there must be. Silence held the kitchen like a string stretched tight. The pot bubbled. The ceiling fan clicked. Mama smiled, small and dangerous. I see you are learning to talk back. Clara didn't answer. She stirred the soup, hands trembling just enough to give it away. That night, long after Mama left, she told Chuka what had happened. He sighed. She didn't mean harm. Please don't make it a big issue. Clara turned away so he wouldn't see the tears. The shadow was not just in their house now. It was in their language, their silences, and their bed. A week later, it made its first public strike. At a neighbor's child naming ceremony, after the dance and soft drinks, women gathered to advise the new mother. Mama's voice rose among them. A woman must submit. In my house, I control how things are done. Even now, my son's wife knows if I say no, it means no. Heads turned, eyes slid towards Clara. She smiled at them. The way women smile when the ground opens beneath their feet and they refuse to fall. That night, Clara sat at the dining table, writing a list. Our budget, our plans, our visits, both families, boundaries. She waited for Chuka to come home from a late branch meeting, determined to talk, really talk, before they lost themselves completely. The key turned in the door. He entered, rain on his shoulders, exhaustion on his face. He saw the paper and rubbed his forehead. Babe, please, not tonight. And just like that, the list curled at the edges, like paper near a flame. Outside, thunder rolled over Enugu. Inside, the shadow lengthened, settling across their marriage like an uninvited guest that had learned the roots of every room. Clara chose a Sunday evening for the talk. No church rush, no office pressure. She cooked delicately, okra with ugba and smoked fish, laid the table and placed a single sheet of paper between the plates. It wasn't a manifesto, just 4 lines in her neat handwriting. Our budget decisions are between us. Visits must be balanced, my family and yours. Phones and messages are private. Mama is respected, but our marriage is our home. Chuka sat, scanned it with tired eyes, and exhaled. Clara, must you write rules? They're not rules, she said softly. They're doors, so our love doesn't spill into the street. He rubbed his temples. You don't understand, Mama. If I tell her these things, she will feel pushed out. And if you don't tell her, she replied, meeting his eyes, I will feel pushed out. Silence. A long minute. Then he nodded, slowly, as though lifting weight. Okay, I will talk to her. The next day, he didn't. Work was heavy. An audit team visited the branch. On Tuesday, he said he'd call after close of business. On Wednesday, Mama called first, cheerful at dawn. My son, I have bought wrapper for your promotion Thanksgiving in the parish. Clara will sew the style I sent. Tell her to make head tie big. Let her look like my wife. Clara, making tea in the kitchen, heard every word. She held the cup tighter so her hands wouldn't betray her. By Thursday, the talk had become a stone she carried in her chest. She decided to create room for it. Let's have dinner with her, she said to Chuka. In our house, we'll celebrate the promotion properly and we'll talk. He agreed. They bought suya and fruit. Clara cooked pepper soup, and she prayed under her breath that the evening would run like cool water. Mama arrived with dazzling presents and 2 churchwomen, uninvited. They came to greet you, she said, sweeping into the living room. An elder does not drink alone. Clara adjusted quickly, setting extra plates. They ate. They praised God. They laughed. When dishes were cleared, she folded her hands and began, gentle, respectful. Mama, there are things I want us to agree on for peace. You know I love Chuka.
I want our marriage to be strong, so I wrote some small points. Mama's eyes narrowed. Points? Just small, so nobody will be hurt. Our budget. Let Chuka and I decide. We will visit you often, but we will also visit my parents. The older woman set down her glass with a soft, dangerous clink. Who taught you marriage? Instagram? The church woman shifted. Chuka cleared his throat. Mama, please. No, Mama said, voice smooth as oiled wood. Let me talk. This girl thinks respect is a costume for Sunday. If your mother trains you, you will not put paper on table and tell a mother whether she can enter her son's house. Budget? When I sold wrappers to keep him in school. Private phone? When spiritual fathers are guiding him. Balance visits? Does your mother carry my son's name? Clara felt heat behind her eyes. She willed herself calm. Mama, I am not chasing you. I'm asking for boundaries so we can have peace. Peace comes by obedience, Mama said, rising. Let me go. I don't eat where I am insulted with pen and paper. The two women stood too, murmuring sympathies. Chuka reached helplessly for his mother's handbag. Mama, I beg. She swept past him. At the door, she paused and looked at Clara with pity that cut deeper than anger. I will be praying for you to learn. Then she was gone. The room felt emptied of air. Chuka sank into a chair, eyes shining with frustrated tears. Why did you push it tonight? Because we keep postponing our marriage. Every day we don't define it, someone else defines it for us. He looked at her, as if seeing a stranger he loved and feared. You have turned me against my mother. No, she answered. I'm turning you toward your wife. They slept back to back, the bed a small battlefield where neither moved a mile. Friday brought the bank's quarterly cocktail, an event coated in gloss, suits, perfume, small chops on white trays. It was Chuka's first public outing since his promotion. Clara chose a long emerald dress with modest sparkle. She hoped the night might lift them, like music carried on evening wind. It began well. The regional director shook Chuka's hand. Colleagues clapped. Cameras flashed. Clara stood near him, smiling, feeling like the partner she dreamed to be. Then Mama arrived. She didn't see her enter. She felt it, a change in the room's temperature. Mama glided across marble in gold lace, coral beads heavy, face painted with triumph. She hugged the director like a seasoned dignitary. My son, she said, presenting Chuka as if to a king. He is the pillar of my old age. I control him well. No woman will confuse him.
The director laughed politely, unsure. Jokes bubbled. Someone whispered. Clara's cheeks burned. A junior colleague glanced at her. Pity mingled with gossip. Mama took charge of Chuka's elbow. Smile, she ordered. Stand. Let the camera see you two, mother and son. Clara stepped forward, hands folded, waiting to be acknowledged as wife. Mama's eyes swept past her like she was hotel wallpaper. A photographer raised his camera. Madam, join. Not necessary, Mama said sweetly. This is mother and son success. The flash went off. Clara blinked against the light and felt something inside her tilt, like a shelf coming loose from the wall. She swallowed her tears and smiled, because she had learned from women before her that sometimes dignity is the only cloth left on your body. Later, at the drinks table, a colleague named Cory touched her arm. You're strong, he said softly. Take heart. Thank you, she replied. She stood straighter. When the program ended, Chuka approached, guilt in his eyes. Babe, I'm sorry. Mama. I know. I've heard the story of sacrifice. I honor it, but sacrifice is not a leash. He looked away. Let's go home. They rode in silence, traffic lights washing the car interior red, then green. Clara's bold move began the next morning, quiet, tidy, and deliberate. She didn't fight or shout.
She woke early, visited a small counseling office run by their church's women ministry, and booked a session for couples. Then she walked to her mother's house with a nylon bag of fruits and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Her mother listened without interruption. She didn't curse anyone. She made tea and spread groundnuts on a tray, and told her daughter a simple story. When I married your father, your grandmother kept a stool by our bed. She said that it was for when she came to advise us at night. I moved the stool to the sitting room. She moved it back. We repeated this 3 times. On the 4th, I told my father, if the stool remains, I will go to my father's house for 1 week, so you will enjoy the stool. He spoke to her. The stool disappeared. Clara laughed through tears. Mama, this is not a stool. It is a whole room. Then you must build a door, she said, not with anger, but with clarity. That afternoon, Clara drafted a letter, not to Mama, but to Chuka. 2 pages, calm and firm. I will not compete with your mother. I will not be humiliated in public. I will honor your bond with her, but I will not allow it to erase me. We need counseling. If you refuse, I will take 1 week apart to think and pray. I love you. Choose our home. She left the letter on his pillow. When he read it, he paced the room until night pressed against the windows. He called once, no words, only breath. He finally whispered, "Okay, counseling." Clara lay awake, heart pounding, thinking of the cocktail flash, the church women, the budget, and the cracking edges of their joy. She wasn't sure whether they had won anything, but she felt for the first time in weeks that she had put her hand back on the door to her own life. Outside, Enugu's night hummed with generators, owls, and late laughter. Inside, a fragile decision stood like a candle between them, small, easily blown out, yet bright enough to show a path.
The counseling office was modest, its cream walls lined with framed Bible verses and motivational quotes. A soft-spoken woman named Mrs. Ude welcomed them, offering zobo in clay cups. Clara sat upright, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Chuka slouched, polite but uneasy. "Marriage is a partnership," Mrs. Ude began, her eyes warm. "But every partnership must have boundaries. Chuka, do you believe your wife feels secure in your love?" He hesitated. "I love her, of course. Does she feel it?" Clara's voice cracked. "Most days, I feel like the 3rd person in my own marriage." The counselor let silence sit between them. Then she asked Chuka, "Do you know the scripture that says, 'A man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the 2 shall become one flesh'?" He nodded, but his jaw tightened. "I know, but Mama, she sacrificed everything. If I don't listen, who am I?" Mrs. Ude leaned forward. "You are a husband. A son honors his mother, but a husband must choose his wife." For a flicker, Clara saw understanding in his eyes. But as they left, his phone buzzed, "Mama again." That evening, Chuka rushed into the sitting room, pale. "Mama fainted," he gasped. "They took her to the clinic." Clara grabbed her shawl, heart racing. "Let's go." At the small private hospital, Mama lay in bed, eyes closed, drips attached. Chuka's cousins surrounded her like mourners. Clara's chest squeezed. She held Mama's hand. "Mummy, please, get well." Mama stirred, whispering weakly, "I don't want quarrel. My heart cannot take it." Chuka's face crumpled. He turned to Clara. "You see? The stress, the disrespect, it's killing her."
Clara's lips parted, but no sound came. A nurse walked in with charts. "She is stable, mild exhaustion. She'll be fine." But the damage was done. In that room, Clara became the villain. Mama's cousins whispered. Chuka's eyes held accusation. Clara's love felt like glass, beautiful, fragile, and about to shatter. The weeks that followed tested Clara more than she thought possible. Mama recovered, but her health scare became her new tool. She called daily, sighing into the phone. "My chest is heavy. Chuka, don't argue with me again. Your wife should not bring me sorrow." And Chuka, terrified of losing his mother, obeyed. The final straw came at the bank's end-of-year Thanksgiving service. It was meant to be Chuka's shining moment, where he would testify about his promotion. Clara wore a gold dress, her hair tied in a regal gele, determined to stand proudly by her husband. As they entered the church, Mama was already there, front row with her wrapper tied and her smile radiant. When Chuka was called to the altar, Clara rose too. But before she could join him, Mama reached out, hooked her hand around Chuka's arm, and walked with him. Gasps rippled through the congregation. Some clapped, some whispered. Clara froze, the blood draining from her face. She stood alone while her husband and his mother lifted hands together in testimony. "God gave me this son, and I have dedicated him back to God. No power of any woman will take him from me." The hall erupted in mixed shouts of "Amen." Clara's knees weakened. She felt the world tilting. Women glanced at her, some with pity, some with judgment. In that moment, humiliation wrapped her tighter than her gele. When they got home, she didn't cry. She removed her earrings, folded her gele carefully, and said in a quiet voice that made Chuka pause mid-sentence, "Tonight, you must choose a husband or a son. I will not be both." The silence that followed was heavier than all their fights combined. Clara did not shout. She did not throw plates or threaten thunder. That night, after the Thanksgiving humiliation, she packed only a weekend bag, 2 dresses, a wrapper, her Bible, and the letter she had already written, and placed her wedding photo where Chuka would see it first thing in the morning. On the frame, she stuck a yellow sticky note. "I love you. Choose us." When he tried to speak, she held up a hand, steady, respectful. "I'm taking 7 days," she said, "not to punish you, to protect what is left." Her voice didn't rise. If anything, it was the quiet that made him afraid. She went to her mother's house in New Haven and slept in her old room with the faded curtains. The first 2 nights, she cried into the pillow like a girl who had lost a secret. By the third, the crying stopped. She awoke before dawn, prayed until the sky lifted, and mapped a plan that did not depend on moods, cousins, or church whispers. Step 1, counseling or nothing. She booked 3 sessions in advance and left the appointment cards on Chuka's WhatsApp with a single line, "I'll meet you there." Step 2, money has memory. She and Chuka had a small joint account for household expenses. The rest of their salaries remained personal. Mama's family support transfer had been coming from Chuka's personal account. Clara drafted a transparent household budget in a simple spreadsheet: rent, food, utilities, savings for a land deposit, and attached it to an email titled, "Our Home, Our Future." No accusations, just numbers that told the truth quietly. Step 3, elders, not spectators. She asked her mother to reach out to Uncle Okechukwu, not the loud relatives who enjoyed drama, but the retired headmaster whose voice calmed storms. If a meeting must happen, it would be with those who wanted peace, not performance. On day 4, Chuka came. He stood on her mother's veranda like a man who had learned to breathe again. "Clara," he said, eyes red, "come home." "I will, after we meet the counselor on Wednesday, and after you send Mama one message, from you, not me." She handed him a folded paper. He unfolded it and read, "Mama, I love you and will always honor you, but I am a husband now. Our budget and decisions are between Clara and me. Please no more unannounced visits or public scenes. We will visit you this Sunday, together. Your son, Chuka." His hands shook. "She will be angry." "She will be alive," Clara replied softly. "Our marriage may not be if you don't send it." He swallowed and nodded. That evening he sent the message. Mama did not reply. A blue tick appeared and stopped there like a held breath. Wednesday's counseling peeled old bandages. Chuka spoke about fear, of being ungrateful, of losing the woman who held him through scarcity. Clara spoke about disappearing, slowly, politely, until only a shadow would remain. Mrs. Uday listened, then drew a small house on her notepad. "This," she said, tapping the roof, "must be built by 2 hands." As they rose to leave, Chuka caught Clara's fingers. "I want us," he whispered. "I am ready. Then stand, not between us, with me." They returned to Independence Layout that night and slept with their foreheads touching, as if memorizing each other's breath. In the morning, Clara awoke to the smell of tea and the sound of Chuka humming in the kitchen. For a fragile hour, peace walked softly through their rooms. It did not last. Before noon, Mama's message arrived, a long voice note, breathy and controlled. "My son, I see your text. I am not angry, I am only weak. If you follow a woman, you will forget your source. But do as you please. I will not die, even if my heart is broken." Clara watched the words press on him like a hand. He pressed pause and looked up at her. "I will not unsend the message," he said, voice shaking. "Let us finish this well." She nodded, pride balanced with dread. Somewhere in the quiet between them, something had shifted, but the shadow had not vanished. It had only learned another doorway. That night, as they set the new budget standing order together, a second notification popped. It was from the bank. Standing order to family support resumed. Clara frowned. "I thought we paused it." "I did," Chuka said, confused, unlocking his phone. Another buzz came. "Change authorized in person." By who? When? How? Clara's mouth dried. She stared at the alert, at the small, cold line of text that shouldn't exist, and felt a truth gathering like harmattan dust at the edge of her mind. Something was moving their walls when they weren't looking, and it wasn't done.
The alert on Chuka's phone stayed like a thorn in Clara's mind. Change authorized in person. She tried to ignore it, telling herself maybe it was a banking glitch. But when the next month's salary came in, the same thing happened. The transfer to family support went out automatically, as though her words, her spreadsheets, her plea for a new start had vanished into smoke. One afternoon, while Chuka was at work, Clara decided to go to the bank. She wore a plain wrapper and tied her scarf low. The young teller, after much hesitation, finally leaned forward. "Madame, the standing order was confirmed in the branch by your husband and his next of kin." Clara frowned. "Next of kin?" The teller checked the screen. Mrs. Inkem Dilim Okafor. Mama. Her hands trembled as she left the bank, clutching her bag like a shield. The truth wrapped around her chest like iron. Mama was not just influencing Chuka from outside. She was inside their very finances. She had power to authorize, to override. It was more than love. It was control. That evening, Clara waited at the dining table, her Bible beside her. When Chuka returned, she held up the bank slip. You listed Mama as next of kin, not me. He looked cornered. Clara, please, don't start. Answer me. His shoulders sagged. I did it before we married. She said it was safer. She has always been my backbone. And now I am what? Decoration? Spare part? Clara's voice cracked, not with rage, but with heartbreak. He reached for her hand. It's not like that. I'll change it. When? Before or after she drains everything we've worked for? His silence was heavier than any lie. That night, Clara lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan. She thought of her mother's words, "If you don't build your corner, someone else will move into it." She realized the corner was already gone.
The following week, a family meeting was called. Uncle Okechukwu sat at the head, his cane resting against the chair. Clara's mother was present too. The living room filled with low murmurs as plates of cola and groundnuts were passed around. Mama entered last, head held high, her wrapper shimmering. Uncle cleared his throat. We are here to settle a matter. Marriage is between husband and wife, but it has come to me that the mother's hand is too strong. Mama laughed lightly, the kind of laugh that carried no joy. Elder, without my hand, would there be marriage? Would there even be Chuka? Clara's mother spoke, calm but firm. We all raised our children with sacrifice, but when a man marries, his wife must not be a stranger in her own home. Mama turned sharply. Your daughter has bewitched him. She wants to erase me. Clara's voice shook, but she forced it steady. Mommy, I don't want to erase you. I want to belong too. Is that a crime? The room held its breath. For the first time, Uncle Okechukwu tapped his cane on the floor. Enough. If a man does not build his home, he will watch it collapse. Chuka, today you must speak. All eyes turned to him. Sweat dotted his forehead. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened again. Clara prayed silently, gripping her knees. Finally, his words came. I love my mother, but Clara is my wife. From today, our finances, our decisions are between me and her. Mama, please, understand. The air crackled. Mama's eyes flashed with something between fury and hate. She stood abruptly. So, it has come to this. You choose her over me. It is not a choice. It is marriage. She left, her footsteps sharp against the tiles. That night, Clara sat with Chuka in their apartment. The air was heavy, but there was a new stillness too, like the pause after a storm. For the first time, she believed change might be possible. But as she drifted into sleep, a message pinged on Chuka's phone. He glanced at it, paled, and quickly locked the screen. Clara turned slowly, her heart thudding. Who was that? He hesitated, then said quietly, Mama. She says, if I go on like this, she will curse me. The room went cold, and Clara realized the fight was far from over. The curse threat was the last straw. For days, Chuka became a shadow of himself, torn between guilt and fear, never once asking how Clara felt. He ate in silence, avoided her gaze, and answered Mama's calls with trembling obedience. Clara watched, her heart breaking piece by piece. She had prayed, cooked, cried, fought, and endured humiliation. But in all of it, one truth grew louder in her spirit. A marriage without respect is a prison, not a partnership. On a quiet Friday morning, while the street outside buzzed with the calls of hawkers, Clara packed her things. She didn't take everything, just her clothes, her books, her savings box, and her dignity. She placed her wedding ring on the dining table, beside the same photo frame she had once used as a plea for love. This time, the note she left was short. I cannot be a wife where I am only a shadow. I choose life. I choose peace. I choose myself. When Chuka returned that evening, he called her name again and again, his voice breaking. He clutched the ring, sank to the floor, and sobbed. But for the first time, Clara was not there to comfort him. Clara moved back to her mother's home. The first weeks were hard. Whispers from neighbors, pitying looks from church women, but she stood firm. She enrolled in a business training program, opened a small catering venture with her savings, and slowly began to smile again. Her food became known across New Haven for its taste and consistency. She built her own name, not as someone's wife, but as Clara. At night when she prayed, she didn't ask for Chuka to change anymore. She asked for strength to remain true to herself. Months later, at a family gathering, she saw Mama again. The older woman's eyes darted away, her pride cracked. Whispers had spread of how Clara had walked away. Some mocked her, others admired her. But Clara held her head high. When Mama finally approached, her voice was low. Clara, you are strong. Stronger than I thought. Clara smiled politely. Strength is all I had left. As for Chuka, he became a cautionary tale, whispered in banking halls and family meetings, a man who never learned to stand, who lost a good woman because he remained a boy. And Clara's story spread too, not as tragedy, but as warning and encouragement. Women whispered it to daughters, don't marry a man who cannot leave his mother, and if you do, never lose yourself. Moral lesson: a husband must be a partner, not a puppet. A wife must be cherished, not compared. And when respect dies, love cannot survive. Endurance without dignity is not marriage. It is bondage. Sometimes the bravest thing a woman can do is to walk away and choose her own peace.